Hi, both. Thanks for joining us today on our Business Gurus channel, where we will be discussing key business topics to help students grasp the most important elements of their course in preparation for their exams and future career. Let's get started.
Welcome to the deep dive. So today, let's maybe put the quarterly earnings reports just aside for a moment.
Yeah, definitely.
We're not really tracking ROI or talking pure profit scaling today. Instead, we're tackling something, well, more fundamental and I think pretty fascinating.
Which is?
If money isn't the only goal, maybe not even the primary one, why would anyone actually sign up for the huge risk, the sheer grind of starting a business?
It's a great question to start with because when you really drill down into why some founders do it, especially those leaving, say, stable, high-paying jobs,
Right.
you find that the bottom line, it's often only part of the picture, sometimes maybe even a small part.
Okay.
So our mission today is to do a deep dive into what we call non-financial business objectives, NFOs.
NFO's got it.
And we're focusing on one specific really powerful motivator our source material highlights, this conscious pursuit of challenge.
Challenge. That's the key word here. Our sources really zoom in on that psychological core, right? The internal drive.
Exactly. The fuel that pushes certain people towards entrepreneurship, even though it often looks like choosing the path against stability.
And yeah, NFOs can cover lots of things, social impact, building a legacy, sure. But this source, it really sharpens the focus on, well, personal satisfaction through difficulty.
So let's be really clear for everyone listening. We're deliberately setting the money conversation aside for now.
Okay.
We're looking squarely at psychological fulfillment almost as a core business aim. That kind of frames the whole discussion, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, so let's unpack this objective challenge.
Right. Let's jump straight into that central idea. The source literally says some entrepreneurs start because they, quote, want a challenge in life. Now, that feels different from just, responding to a challenge that comes up. This is like seeking it out as the main goal.
That's the crucial distinction. It's proactive, not reactive. And what's really fascinating, I think, is how the reward mechanism here is totally internal. Well, the difficulty itself, the complexity, that's the desired outcome. That's why we call it a non-financial objective. The satisfaction comes directly from grappling with that difficulty, not necessarily from the profit margin it generates.
So, wait, they're not just putting up with the challenge to get the money?
No, not primarily. You could almost say they might use the money or the business's survival as a way to keep score. Like, how well did I handle that challenge? Did I overcome it?
Huh. That really reframes what success means then. For a, let's say, traditional business owner, challenge is friction, right? It's a cost, a delay.
Usually, yes. An obstacle to overcome to reach the real goal, which is profit or market share.
But for this specific type of founder, the challenge, it is the destination.
Pretty much. Yeah, absolutely. And to really get why, we also need to look at the flip side. What are they moving away from?
Okay. And the source gives us that contrast pretty clearly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It mentions that the idea of a regular 9-to-5 job does not appeal or suit their personality.
That phrase does not appeal or suit their personality. It's doing a lot of work there, like you said.
It feels like more than just wanting flexible hours.
Oh, definitely. It suggests a deeper kind of personality clash, maybe even a fundamental incompatibility with, established corporate life.
So what traits are we inferring here?
Well, when someone actively rejects predictability, the set schedule, the defined roles, the sort of clearer path of traditional jobs, you're likely looking at someone with a really high need for autonomy.
Makes sense. They want to be in control.
Exactly. And probably a low tolerance for bureaucracy, maybe, and perhaps almost a visceral dislike of routine.
Routine is the enemy. Yeah, I can see that. For this personality type, maybe routine feels like stagnation.
Yeah.
Like mental cobwebs setting in.
Precisely. If the day-to-day becomes too predictable, too samey, the work itself might lose its value for them, regardless of how much it pays.
So the stimulation is key.
It seems to be. And connecting this back to the bigger picture, it implies that what most people see as the benefits of a 9-to-5, the stability, the security, this group might actually perceive those things as, well, restrictive, even risky in their own way.
Risky how? Risky to their sense of self.
Risky to their need for growth, for engagement, perhaps. They might see that safety as stifling. So the constant churn, the uncertainty, the sheer complexity of running their own thing, That becomes the necessary antidote.
The antidote to the 9-to-5 structure.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
They're essentially trading external security for internal stimulation. That's the deal they're making.
They'd rather face constant new problems that demand creative solutions than settle into something comfortable but maybe less engaging.
Yeah. And remember that visual the source suggested. Standing at the start of a path with like giant wrecking balls swinging across it.
Right, the obstacle course analogy.
Most people would look for the safer detour, wouldn't they? But these founders, they look at that course and think, okay, this is where I get to test myself. This requires everything I've got.
They actively choose the path requiring maximum attention, maximum effort.
Maximum adaptation, perhaps. The intensity isn't just a side effect. It's potentially the core reward.
And okay, that intensity, that drive, it doesn't just stay as a feeling inside them, right? It has to translate into actual business decisions.
Absolutely. It directly shapes how they run the company.
So let's follow that thread. What are the practical consequences? If a founder's main personal goal is this psychological challenge, how does that actually affect, say, the market they enter or the products they decide to build? How does it shape strategy?
Yeah, this is where that non-financial aim really hits the pavement, so to speak. A founder driven primarily by challenge, they're probably not looking for the easiest market or the most straightforward business model.
They're looking for complexity.
Potentially, yes. They might deliberately choose markets that are high friction, maybe deeply fragmented, the kind of messy spaces that bigger, more efficiency-focused companies tend to avoid. Why? Because the level of difficulty is inherently higher there.
Can you maybe give an example? What might that look like?
Sure. Okay, so instead of maybe launching a simple direct-consumer gadget with clear margins...
Yeah, the kind of thing you see everywhere.
Right. A challenge seeker might decide to build, say, a really complex B2B software platform. Maybe something that needs to integrate 3 different ancient legacy systems that nobody else has managed to connect properly.
So the engineering problem itself is massive.
Monumental. Or maybe they jump into a really heavily regulated industry. Think cross-border fintech or some niche area of biotech R&D. Why? Because the regulatory hurdles, the compliance demands, that provides the constant intellectual puzzle they're actually looking for.
Okay, so the operational difficulty isn't a bug, it's a feature for them.
You could definitely see it that way. They might gravitate towards projects that force them to constantly innovate or solve problems that seem almost impossible, because that's what engages them most deeply.
Right. But this raises a pretty critical question, doesn't it? If challenge is the primary goal, could that make the business strategy seem, well, erratic, maybe even unstable? What about, say, their responsibility to investors who are focused purely on financial return?
That's a really important point. It's a potential tension, absolutely. Are they being, quote-unquote, irresponsible if they prioritize solving the hard problem over maximizing the immediate profit?
Yeah. How do they balance that?
It forces us and them to define success maybe a bit differently. If they take on external funding, look, they absolutely have to manage the financial side. The business needs to be sustainable, hit its targets, smart objectives and all that.
Of course.
But their personal driver, the thing that really motivates them day in, day out, that's mastering the complexity. The financial return might be seen more as proof validation that they succeeded in tackling that difficulty.
So the money confirms they won the challenge.
Yeah. In a way, yes. It's the scoreboard, not the reason for playing the game itself. They might even, theoretically, under-optimize certain processes if making them perfectly efficient removes the interesting complexity they actually enjoy managing.
Huh. So a company built on this challenge objective, it might be really innovative, probably quite complex, maybe even a bit maddening to manage from a purely efficiency standpoint.
But for the founder, it's constantly fulfilling their core internal mission.
Exactly.
Which means those standard success metrics, like pure operational smoothness or predictable profit growth year over year, they might genuinely take a back seat sometimes.
They could well be secondary to things like the novelty of the solution, the sheer scale of the problem they're attacking, or maybe just the fact that they survived a market storm that would have crushed a company run by someone seeking stability above all else.
Wow. Okay, that's a really powerful way to look at it. We've kind of moved past the simple idea that entrepreneurs are just money-driven.
And we've established that, for at least some of them, the business is maybe the ultimate vehicle, the most complex, high-stakes platform available for achieving personal psychological goals.
It's the arena they choose to satisfy that deep need for autonomy, for intellectual stimulation, for tackling the hard stuff.
And understanding this specific NFO, this drive for challenge, it's actually pretty vital, isn't it? because it helps explain strategic choices that might otherwise look, well, completely illogical from the outside.
It really does. It explains why a founder might resist a seemingly obvious, profitable pivot if that pivot simplifies things too much. They might stick with the messier, more complex original vision because that's where the real engagement lies for them.
So recapping, we dove deep into the pursuit of challenge today.
Yeah.
A key non-financial objective. It pushes certain individuals away from the predictable 9 to 5 and straight into the obstacle course of entrepreneurship.
Driven by personality, by that need for intensity, not solely by economics.
Exactly.
And as you, the listener, think about the whole spectrum of business motivations. Aims, objectives, SMART goals, financial versus non-financial. Maybe we can leave you with one final thought building on this.
Okay, let's hear it.
If an entrepreneur's stated non-financial objective is purely to seek out and engage with challenge, and they achieve that, like their business is always demanding, always on the edge, always forcing them to adapt and grow.
Perpetual difficulty based.
Perpetual difficulty, exactly. Are they actually successful then, even if the financial results are just, enough to keep the lights on, to keep the challenge going, maybe just modest returns?
Huh. So success isn't the big exit or the massive valuation necessarily?
Maybe not for them. Maybe the ultimate success is the ongoing, satisfying struggle with the difficulty itself, that continuous engagement.
So how do you measure success when the primary objective is internal fulfillment, that personality match, rather than just hitting external money targets?
It changes the lens, doesn't it? Changes how you might read the story of the next startup founder you hear about, or even interpret the biographies of famous CEOs.
Definitely something to think about. When is hard actually good?
Something to mull over next time you see a business decision that looks, on the surface, maybe a bit irrational.
Great point. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the pretty complex psychology of the challenge-seeking entrepreneur.
Pleasure talking through it.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks to both of you for joining us today. You've been listening to the Business Gurus. Let's now hand it over to you. What further questions do you have based on what we've discussed so far? Leave a comment and we'll get back to you right away. If you haven't already, hit that follow for more business tips.